Chapter 33. The question is, any bid'ah is bad. There is no such thing as good bid'ah. And the answer is no, that's not right. Okay. Bid'ah is two types, good and bad. This is the problem with this, is the problem non-Sunnis have globally. Okay, they take one hadith or one Quranic verse and think that gives you the whole story. That is completely the wrong way to understand Islam, because if you've got 50 ahadith on the subject, surely you should read all 50 to get an understanding of it. Like, for example, the Quranic verse, Qul huwallahu ahad, says Allah the One. You would say, but that gives you the full story. No, it doesn't. It gives you most of the story. It doesn't give you the whole story. It gives you the most important part of the story. He's one, but it doesn't say why he's one. Another verse in Qur'an explains why there's only one God. That gives you a bit more of the story, you see. So one verse or one hadith may give you most of the story, even the most important part of the story. Even at times you can argue the whole story, but the problem is it won't give you the full picture, especially when it comes down to complexities like this, which actually is not a complexity, but it's a misrepresentation of one hadith, and that hadith does not give the whole story. Alright? And let's have a look at the Holy Qur'an. The Holy Qur'an mentions this term actually, and it's about people who innovated, but Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying that's okay because they tried to do it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abtigha'a ridwanillah, they followed this so to make Allah happy. Alright, so they innovated for themselves. So Allah says, yes, innovation is allowed, new things are allowed, providing certain rules are followed. Alright? And the hadith, the non-Sunnis quote, Kullu bid'atin dalala wa kullu dalalatin finnar. They say, see, every bid'ah is misguidance. Kullu bid'atin dalala, every bid'ah is misguidance. Wa kullu dalalatin finnar, and every dalala, every misguidance is in the fire. And they say, see, it's clear. It's clear. But that hadith is not the only hadith on this subject. Alright, so how can you say it's clear and complete? It's part of the picture. And you find that sometimes the Prophet ﷺ says something, but the full message is not there unless you look at other ahadith. I'll give you an example. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, umirtu an uqatila an-nas hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I have been ordered to kill the people. Exact translation. Umirtu an uqatila an-nas. I have been ordered to kill the people hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah, until they say yashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So what does that mean? And it's a very authentic hadith. It's in Sahih this everywhere. But then Quran says la ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in religion. So you ask the ulama who know about this, and they say, yeah, if a person says they're Muslims, but then they refuse to do shahada, then they become traitors. They become munafiqs. Therefore, you deal with them accordingly. You deal with traitors accordingly. They're just making political allegiance, but actually they're not really with you, so you can't trust them. Alright? They become traitors within your midst. Like Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, a tribe said, we'll become Muslims, we're not paying any jizya. Abu Bakr said, no, you have to pay. You have to pay jizya, you have to pay zakat, you have to pay these things. It's part of your Islam. That means you're fooling yourselves and fooling us. And he declared war on them. Because he said, no, this is part of Islam. You know, this was a culture at the time. You sign an agreement, you honor it. So it's not Islam, it's a whole culture at the time. And you say you're a Muslim, but then you have to fulfill these taxes. You have to fulfill these requirements. So you can use that hadith as people have and misunderstand it, or you can take everything together and then explain. So this one, kullu bid'atin dalala wa kullu dalalatin finnar, it's not the whole story. Alright? What the Prophet is saying, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every bid'ah which is against Islam is misguidance. That's what he's saying. And every misguidance in such a context is in the fire. Now, this is Nisa'i. Let me explain the Muslim hadith, alright? Just to sort of put the context. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man sanna fil Islam, Sahih Muslim, sunnatan hasana, falahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha. Or kama qala an-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahih Muslim, man sanna fil Islam. Sunnah is to introduce something in Islam, right? Not to reintroduce, to introduce something new. Whoever introduces in Islam sunnatan hasana, a good sunnah, a good practice, a good tradition, falahu ajruha, he will get the reward for it, wa ajru man amila biha, and the reward for all of those who act upon it. It's the same Muslim. What the non-Sunnis do, they say, oh yeah, it means introduce a good hadith, reintroduce a good hadith. I said, where's the word hadith in here? Where is it? To reintroduce a sunnah, I said, where is it reintroduce? It says introduce where it wasn't done before. Alright? But what he's saying is not introduce a sunnah which is against Islam, he's saying introduce sunnah which is part of Islam. So he's saying that the ulama have the position, the Sahaba Ikram, the Tabi'in, they have this position to introduce something which is important. Alright? But even though it's introducing it, you'll still find the evidences for its permissibility within the body of information in Islam. For example, and I've got these examples, alright? I'm going to give you some examples. Where have things been introduced where the Prophet hasn't introduced it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Alright? Again, let's look at Bukhari. Alright? No one can argue with the level of authenticity here. Okay, I'm quoting Muslim, there's many things I can quote. Now I'm quoting Bukhari. During the time of Salatul Tarawih, now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never, in fact, he was very careful with Salatul Tarawih. He actually sometimes didn't come to the mosque, he prayed at home because he said, I don't want people to think this is compulsory. Alright? Right. So, what happened in Salatul Tarawih? Hazrat Umar, radiallahu, after Isha, people started reading separately, quietly. Then they started reading in little groups. They thought, hang on, well, why don't we read in, yeah, okay, you become my imam, okay, and then one group here, one group there, one group there. He said, this isn't right. He goes, look, you all want to read Tarawih, you're all here, let's pray in one Jama'ah. Okay? And look at the words he used. Ni'mal bid'atu hadhihi. This is a blessed bid'ah. I'm sorry, what words did he use? Ni'mal bid'atu hadhihi. This is a blessed bid'ah, and you'll find it. Okay. Let's have a look. There you go. Bottom of page 100. If you're with my book, I'm not sure. Qala Umar, said Umar radiyallahu anhu, ni'mal bid'atu hadhihi. There you go. Sahih al-Bukhari. Because people said the Prophet, he didn't instruct this. He goes, I know he didn't instruct it, alright? But what I'm saying is the right thing to do. You're praying in separate groups, that's wrong. We're going to set a bad precedent for the future. And you're going to get huge dispute. That's why, because of this, every mosque you find one Tarawih prayer. Because of this. He's done the right thing. He's fulfilled the sunnah of keeping the Muslims united in one jama'ah. He's fulfilled so many sunnah. Alright? And he's used the word bid'ah. He hasn't said this is a right thing to do. He goes, no, this is a bid'ah, and it's a blessed bid'ah. Not even a good bid'ah, it's a bid'ah of ni'mah, blessed bid'ah. And the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, follow me and follow my companions. So Hazrat Umar introduced something that wasn't there before. He even introduced a second adhan in Jummah, by the way. Jummah have 2 adhans. That's not in the Sunnah, that's Hazrat Umar's innovation. Alright? And he says he's part of the Sunnah. Let's have a look at another hadith in Bukhari. Okay? This is a discussion between Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Umar, and other senior companions. There's a massive discussion going on. Alright? And there was a battle of Yamama, and many Huffaz had been killed in that battle. You know, I think hundreds actually were martyred. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu went to Abu Bakr and said, look, there's been many casualties, many shuhada, and we don't want to lose the Qur'an like this, or reduce the knowledge and the expertise. We don't want to lose it. We don't want to become vulnerable. Look at the foresight of this person. Amazing. And he goes, let's collect the Qur'an together in one book. And Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu said, how can I do something the Prophet never did, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How can I do that? He didn't say bid'ah, by the way. He didn't say kullu bid'atin dalala. He didn't say that. He just said the Prophet never instructed this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it. That's what he was saying. He didn't say it's bid'ah. There's a bid'ah mentioned here. He didn't use that because Abu Bakr knew bid'ah is good and bad. Alright? He wanted to be sure what he was doing was the right thing to do and a good thing to do. And Hazrat Umar said, no, this is a very good thing to do. Alright? And Hazrat Umar kept urging. See, at that time, there was no necessity to make it a book because very few people could read. What's the urgency? Everyone learnt Quran by heart very quickly. What's the urgency, right? But Hazrat Umar radiallahu, he realized there are issues, all right? And obviously Allah put it in his mind, obviously. So then Abu Bakr said, radiallahu ta'ala an, he said, yes, do you know what? He goes, you're right. You're right. And he gave the job to one of the scribes. Okay? And Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an said, eventually you convinced me and Allah made me feel this is the right thing to do. Right? It's something the Prophet never instructed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's something that he never even hinted at. But the reason they made it into one book, it was a logical reason, but the evidence is in Quran. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, that is the book. And that's the evidence. So Allah's mentioned the book, therefore we're allowed to put it together in the book. You see? And that's what we use when we introduce something. There's always evidence that's the right thing to do. And there's always evidence that it's a sunnah thing to do. There's always evidence. As long as it doesn't go against Islam, and the proof it doesn't go against Islam, you will find evidence for this. Hence, we've written about Milad, loads of evidences. Ta'weez, loads of evidences. Alright? Writing tafsir, loads of evidences. You see? There's evidences everywhere. Even though you might not find the detail, you'll find the principles. Alright? And because of this is Bukhari, because of this, nobody can argue. Obviously, Allah has said, I will protect. This is one of the ways He's protected the book. Okay? Writing the harakat. That was never done. The Zabar, Zair, Bish, Fatah, Kasra. That was never done. It's against the Sunnah. Are we saying we should remove them? What would be the impact of removing the harakat? No one can recite Qur'an except if you know Arabic. Anybody complaining about that? Anybody complaining about that? I've actually got a whole list of things in A17. If we turn to that, I think it's probably worth going through them. As I said, I'm not going to go through it in order, but as I said, the second adhan in Jummah is actually a bid'ah. Alright, Hazrat Umar introduced, because to make it practical, the first adhan, get ready, come to the mosque. The second adhan, right, let's start the prayer. It makes sense, doesn't it? There's no watches at the time, and Jummah has to be prayed in Jama'ah. Alright, so introduce the second. Now that's a huge thing. But he said it's a good thing. Right? Making the Qur'an into 30 parts. The Qur'an is actually meant to be in surahs. But the reason we've made it into 30 parts is our convenience. We read one part a day. At the end of the month we finish the whole Qur'an. Okay? I've mentioned Fatah Kasra Dhamma. Printing the Holy Qur'an and not writing by hand, that is also bid'ah. The sunnah is to write by hand, but we're allowed to print. What's the problem? For us it's obvious thing, but at the time, the first person to print the Qur'an, I'm sure he had an issue. I'm sure people complain, you can't do this. You're gonna, you're gonna make people lose their professions who are writing. It's against the sunnah. It's never been, and I'm sure there are objections. Using a microphone in the mosque, never done by the Prophet. I remember when the train came, some people were telling me when the train was first introduced, the steam train, people said, oh no, you can't, you have to ride horses and camels, that's the sunnah. And then they started saying, even remember they had one light at the front, the old steam trains, it was a big lantern. They said, look, that's the Dajjal with his one eye. Even that was said. So you've got to understand that anything good which you can justify by Islam, which doesn't go against Islam, and you can introduce it, and Allah, if He likes it, He will allow it to flourish, and He'll put it in people's hearts, it's the right thing to do. And you'll always find it in one way or another in the Qur'an and Sunnah. And that's the key test. Right? You'll find it somewhere. You'll find the principle somewhere. And that's why when we have practices like Milad, like Urs, we have proofs and evidences from Qur'an and Sunnah. We have these proofs. Okay? Celebrating birthdays, we have these proofs. The companions did celebrate birthdays. Right? The Prophet did, so in one way or another, he did celebrate. But if we formalize it and make it say, okay, we gather people together, we have food, we have a cake, we have a dua, we have presents. Yeah, you won't find all of these things together, but you'll find many of them all over the place. Okay? And you'll find the companions did gather and make dua and serve food for a birth. You'll find it in Qur'an. So anything new, as long as you find the evidence in Qur'an, and Allah will allow it to flourish if He likes it. If He doesn't like it, He won't allow it to flourish.
The majority of these groups that complain, they've introduced second Jamaats or Jummah in the majority of the mosques.
I think you're right. Not just 2 Jummahs. There's Eids, 5 Eids. There's 2 Taraweehs.
Yeah.
If you go to Arab countries, they wouldn't have 2 Jamaats because they've got the setup there for everybody to. When I was in Oman, we read Eid, all the mosques were closed, right, except the really big ones, and we had to go to this place in the desert and read it there. And if I said to them, let's have 5 Jamaats in the mosque, they said, what are you talking about? It says, Kufr. It is wrong. It says, no, Eid has to be all. But here, I remember there was an alim came from Pakistan, and we were going through the Jamaat times. He goes, ye kufr nahi hai, ye bid'at nahi hai. He's a Sunni. And Hazrat Sahab was there, rahmatullah alayhi. Hazrat Sahab says, aur kya tariqa hai? What else can we do? it's the right thing to do. There's been no massive objection, no demonstrations. Well, everybody wants to read Eid. It's simple. I find 2 Jamaats. It's no big deal. Yeah, that's a bid'ah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Having a speech in English in the mosque, which is why with the Sunni ulama they say, okay, look, let's keep the khutbah in Arabic, but let's have the speech in Urdu English beforehand. You know? And we won't make it official part of the khutbah. But I know some imams, they have the khutbah in English and they have the minimum Arabic, and that's part of the khutbah. I'm not comfortable with that, but I can't say it's haram. I can't say it's wrong. Okay? And you can see bid'ah has been divided up the different types. Okay? And you can read that because there's more evidences within this.